Hi, this is part 2 of the SMX screen installation. And this one we're going to focus on the actual frame itself and installing it or assembling it and putting it on the wall. We're looking at the back of the screen right now, and we're only looking at half of the screen. I want to talk a little bit about what this frame is actually made out of. This is called a T-slot aluminum extrusion, and let's get a closer look down here. The way it works, it's made of aluminum, and it's mostly a hollow to save on weight. And it's got these channels that are called T-slots, and this one has 6 of them. This is a 1.5 by 3 inch extrusion. And then on this side over here, going vertically, we've got 1.5 by 1.5. And the idea is, you can pretty much bolt anything that has a screw and a bolt you can install in here. So it's really handy if you want to add an L bracket or whatever. But this kind of framing is used for a lot of purposes, for building machinery and even commercial frames. So hopefully you have your parts and they're all custom cut to size. So all you have to do is assemble them. I'm going to go over a couple of the parts just in case you're unfamiliar. So this is a joining plate, and you can see on the back here I've actually installed the screws and the mounting plates already. And the way these work, if you have one like this, is it actually just slides on, slides into the channel. So you want to make sure that you have access to the edge of the channel so you can slide it in. And so what we'll do is we'll actually bolt this one on first because we have access, and you'll want to mark about where you want it on each side. And really the only thing you want to pay attention to, like I tried to split it into thirds, but you want to make sure that it's not going to conflict with the mounting on the wall. So make sure your spacing is separate so you don't actually hit one of those mounting brackets up there and have to readjust. If you do, it's not a big deal. You can just loosen it and then slide it a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and install these first, and then we'll go to the corners. And for the corners, I have these corner gussets. The nice thing about the gusset is it gives you a good sharp 90-degree angle, whereas the mounting plates have a little bit of fudge room for moving around a little bit, so they're not quite as accurate. And you could use gussets for everything. I chose a little bit of each. I didn't think it was as important to use gussets here on the inside, whereas on the outside I want to make sure I get a nice square angle. Then this is the mounting piece for the roller shade, and it's going to slide on there like that, and I'm going to mount that one there and then one on the top up here. While I'm at it, let me go over some of the options that you might run into for mounting to this T-channel, T-slot. So you might see something like this where there's a bolt and a backer nut for it. And these ones are also slide ins. You have to have access to the outside so you can slide it. You can mount things exactly where you want them. Another option is this, what they call a drop-in. And the nice thing about the drop-in is that you don't have to have access to the edge. You can just drop it in, and it's shaped such that it'll turn 90 degrees as you start to tighten the bolt, and it'll cinch down, and you can just put that in where you want. So that's nice. If you forget something, you can use one of those and not have to have access to slide things up and down the channel. Before I start, if you've got, this is a zip tie cable management connector, and if you want to use one of these and just place them along your channel where you're going to expect to have to manage cables, that's a good idea to do that now, because you won't have super easy access once it's mounted on the wall. It'll be a little bit more tricky. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and bolt this together. I'm going to start with this piece in the middle, because I'll be able to slide these together, and then I'll come to the outside corners and I'll put the gussets on, and then I should see you then. All right, so this is what the frame looks like when it's assembled. I added a couple of cable management nuts down there, not too many. I don't expect to be able or need to run too many things along the bottom there, but I've got a few to keep the cables nice and tidy. One thing I didn't mention is you definitely want to assemble all the pieces kind of loosely and then go back around and tighten them once everything's in place. That way, as things start to fall into square as you assemble it, you can make sure that all the pieces have room to adjust until they're in their final position. So I've installed the gussets here, and the shade or the roller brackets are there on either side. Again, the cable mounting nuts for the zip ties, and then the mounting plates there. And this is the whole half of the screen. And I think we're about ready to hang that on the wall. So I'll see you after that. All right, so I've got the frame up on the mounting brackets, and it's not actually attached yet. I wanted to show you this little connector here, if you can see it. Basically, they call this a roll-in nut. And because of the shape, it allows you to drop it in and then roll it into the T-slot. And it's got a little rubber handle that allows you to kind of slide it back and forth. And the reason why I wanted to show you this was because as you go to install the frame, you're going to realize that you don't really have a lot of room to figure out how to get a nut up into that slot. And so this kind of a nut is really handy because it allows you to maneuver in that tight space. And with the other drop-ins, they're just so tiny, it's really hard to get them back up where you need them. So I'm going to go ahead and put two of these in here and try to mount it so that the frame doesn't fall down on me. One thing I do want to mention really quickly is that I wasn't too impressed with these drop-in sliders. There's a rubber nub here on the bottom, and it tended to bind up a little bit. It didn't really slide very smoothly. I made do, and you can actually pull the rubber right out. But for the official build, I think I will spec something similar to this. They have a version of this with a set screw instead of the little rubber, and so you can drop it in and then you can use the set screw to kind of lock it in place wherever you want it, and then you can put the frame on the wall and then mount it, and that might be a little bit easier. Of course, there are a lot of different options. You can kind of pick what you want, but just wanted to update you on that. All right, now I've got this half of the screen mounted on the wall, and as always, I want to make sure that the center of the screen is centered on the room, and you can use a laser level or any other kind of level or a chalk line or anything like that to make sure that you're plumb. So one thing I did forget to mention is if you want, you can buy these nice fancy little plastic end caps. They just go on with push pins onto the ends there. So I'm gonna go ahead and install the one up here on the top, and then you can assemble the other half of the screen and mount it the same. And ultimately, we're gonna join these two halves with some plates in the back on the top and bottom. Okay, so I've got both sides of the screen on there. Now I just need to join them. And what I found is easiest to join them is to loosely attach this screw through the plate to the backer. So I'm going to go through here. I'm just going to loosely attach it. And I'm going to bring it over here. And I'm going to slide it in to one side all the way. I'm going to put the two pieces together. I'm going to slide it back, tighten it down. So I'll give that a shot. Okay, so I've got my piece there. It's all assembled, loosely ready to slide on. If I'm lucky, I can get it on there. Just like that. I can attach these together. I don't know if I can do this with one hand, but the goal is to try to slide this over. There we go. Now we've got a piece, we can attach it, tighten it down, and we'll have one full screen. And there we have it, folks. Fully assembled screen frame joined together. The last thing we need to do, which I'm not going to show because I actually ran out of brackets, but we need to install the lower brackets here on either side with the lag bolts, and just secure the lower half of the screen to the frame there, to the wall. And after that, we can move on to motorization and the masking.